My name is Ben Hanley. I am the post-war and contemporary specialist at Dallas Valuations. This was a difficult one. Energetic, enthusiastic, straightforward, loyal, and one would hope, and my colleagues will have to corroborate, knowledgeable. By that, do you mean if I wasn't a specialist in contemporary art? Because if I wasn't in contemporary art, but I still wanted to be a specialist, it would be in antiquities. I adore antiquities. I think they are massively undervalued. I think they're just beautiful objects. So I would have chosen that field. But if I wasn't doing anything related to art and antiques, I think I would have gone into event management, because I'm sort of energetic, enthusiastic, straightforward, blah, 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 and I can juggle balls in the air. So I think that would have suited me quite well. It was relatively recently, actually. I mean, it was a very early 1917 Chagall self-portrait, showing the artist in his usual sort of mystical way. So you had a painting of the artist with the town of Verbets in the background, his town in Russia, with a palette. So it was all very mystical, and it just preempted a lot of the sort of iconography that he used later, and it was just utterly beautiful. And I saw it in a small little flat in Battersea. I mean, nice flat, but nonetheless, it was not what you expected to see in a flat in Battersea, and it was utterly luminous. Sounds quite glamorous, this one. I was sent to Mallorca, Palma de Mallorca, to value a collection of contemporary art, which was quite a decent gig just to begin with. But when I got there, it turned out to be the biggest collection of Banksy and urban art, well, one of the biggest that I've ever seen. I mean, fantastic stuff. A city trader or a metal broker had obviously done very well, moved to Mallorca, brought his entire collection over. He bought extremely well in the early noughties, and it was it's not what you expect when you go to Mallorca. So I think that's probably the most memorable. The trouble is, my work is my hobby as well, so I'm always surfing the net. I'm always on auction sites. My phone is, most guys' phones are not full of what I've got on my phone. It's always antiques, it's always paintings, it's always antiquities. So I surf the net. My job is my hobby. Apart from that, cooking. I love cooking. That's a trick question, I take it. Joking aside, ask my wife. I think I'm almost perfect. Joking again. C.S. Lewis, Narnia was the sort of the backdrop to my childhood. Every dinner party needs a little bit of glamour and a bit of eye candy, so Sophia Loren, I think that was the highlight of, she's alive, so therefore that helps, but that sort of 1950s, 60s European meets Hollywood, it was sort of the high point. And then Jeff Bezos, maybe, purely because I'm one of his biggest clients over here, and I'd like to make him a client of mine. He's got plenty of money to spend, so I'm not sure how that would work as a dinner party, but there are rationales for each of them. Like everybody else, it's dependent on what happens. The Greek islands call if we can get out and come back without having any quarantining. My wife and I go there quite a lot. I mean, it's just blissful. But worst case scenario, just, I don't know, chilling. Cooking. It's dull. I mean, really. Alistair, what do you think my talents are? That's a difficult one. I mean, a lot of the places I want to visit are in the Middle East, in the Levant, so that we're talking about Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria. Not going to happen in the near future, but I would have loved to have gone there. But let's start with Istanbul. I've tried 3 times to go, and every time I've had to cancel. So Istanbul would be the first off. Right, this isn't probably going to make me look very hip and trendy. Elizabeth Taylor's Cleopatra. I was a total Egypt nerd when I was young, so seeing that was like, oh my god, I was mesmerised. It was the Harry Potter for my generation almost, in terms of the impact. And then even worse in terms of credibility, that morphed into The Mummy with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. I've seen that series so many times. I talked to my wife again, she thinks I'm nuts, but there we go. Favourite piece of music? Again, it's probably not very trendy or very down with the kids, but I love Ave Maria, and in particular I love the Gruner version rather than the Schubert version. It's an odd thing when you're young and you're forced to listen to things with your parents. You resent it, but now there's nothing as soothing for me as that aria. Is it an aria or is it a hymn? I don't know.